All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. We continue our coverage this morning of the race for Indiana's 5th congressional district. That was an open seat until Congresswoman Victoria Spartz announced on Monday that she will seek another term after all. Our government reporter Garrett Bergquist has been working his way through the candidate list. We hear today from Hamilton County businessman LD Powell.
With us now is LD Powell. LD, thanks for coming by today.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
So why are you running for Congress?
It's my why, I think, that really makes the difference. And for me, it comes out of an experience that I had about 20 years ago. I'd entered the hospital for pancreatitis. I had a gallstone get stuck in a pancreatic duct. I'm put in the hospital. They put me on painkillers. I developed pneumonia. 10 days later, I come out, one problem solved and another started. And that was an addiction. And unfortunately, a lot of folks have experienced similar. You know, our medical system has been prescribing opioids and other painkillers for years, not really understanding kind of some of the side effects. And I experienced one of those, and that was an addiction to opioids afterwards. So I tried to stop on my own, kind of just thinking, you know, why can't I just stop this? You know, it's just a decision, and failed miserably. And eventually surrendered to the fact that I needed help. And I entered into Fairbanks Hospital here in Indianapolis. And that opened my eyes to a whole new world. I sat in there with CEOs of billion-dollar companies, grandmothers, teenagers, inner city people, and I got exposed to this whole dynamic going on in our culture right now around an addiction to prescribed drugs and then also unprescribed. And so for the last 18 years, I've been involved in the recovery community, firsthand, helping others get clean and sober, working my own recovery, but yet I'm seeing the damage just pile up. The rooms keep filling up. It's not getting better. And so when I heard that Victoria was not running for re-election, I felt a prompting to think about running and trying to make a difference at a federal level. And by that I mean stopping the flow of drugs into our country. We'll never have enough recovery rooms and never have enough recovery hospitals to clean up the damage that's being done if we continue to allow our borders to be wide open.
The House this week failed to approve articles of impeachment against Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, and then it failed to approve an aid package for Israel. How would you have voted on those two issues?
I would have voted to impeach. I mean, it is an absolute travesty what's going on at our border and a dereliction of duty. And we need to take action on that. So I would have voted to impeach. Aid package to Israel, I stand with Israel. I'm for clean bills. Let's not bundle these things all up or load them up with all the pork. That kind of slows things down, and folks kind of do all this stuff that's not germane to what we're trying to do. So let's get a clean bill. Let's vote straight up and down on Israel aid package. And Israel's a good friend, a good ally, and we need to support them.
Let's go ahead and turn to some of the issues. And you brought up the issue of addiction specifically. You say on your website that you want to go to war with the drug cartels. What in practice would that look like?
So we can apply pressure on the governments that are, let's say, not stepping up to their responsibility to help with this. There's trade issues. We have the ability to leverage our trade agreements to make it unprofitable or extremely costly to raise the cost of Mexico and China aiding and abetting, or at the very best, just turning a blind eye to this. So that's one place we can apply pressure. Secondly, putting law enforcement back on the border, working on stopping people from coming in instead of helping them to come in. Catch and release. Let's catch and return, and let's put the right resources in place to stop the flow of bad people coming into our country as well. And then thirdly, we have to put law enforcement on the street in our country to deal with the dealers. And the penalties for dealing need to be severe. Potentially murder, second degree, first degree. I mean, these drugs are killing people. So I don't see a difference in someone coming up and shooting you with a gun or giving you a lethal dose of fentanyl. There needs to be severe consequences. I don't see those anymore.
Speaking of the border issue, we also had the border deal that collapsed in Congress this week. How would you approach border security in particular, and particularly as it interplays with the drug issue we just discussed?
So, from my understanding, we have enough laws already. They're just not being enforced. Namely, Biden reversed Trump's catch and return policy. He can turn that around today, right now. He can reverse that policy and start returning people back to their country of origin. So I don't think we need new laws. I think it's gamesmanship. I think we need to enforce the laws that we have on the book. Let's start with that. We have passed tons of laws. So it's a matter of will. It's not a matter of we don't have enough laws.
I want to turn to a couple of other positions you noted on your website. You said that you would promote fair trade deals. What would those look like? How do you define a fair trade deal?
Fair trade deal is, in the case of China or Mexico raising tariffs on our goods, and then we're not allowed to raise tariffs on their goods. So it's not a situation where they are allowed to raise tariffs on our goods. So in China, if you want to send cars or product to them, they will unilaterally put a tariff on it. And that reduces competitiveness for our products. So I think Trump had the right approach. You raise tariffs, we're going to raise tariffs. It's going to be a level playing field, or we'll play hardball. So that would be my approach to trade deals.
You've also called for pro-life legislation. Does that mean that you would support a nationwide abortion ban?
Well, Roe v. Wade has been decided, overturned, and now it's back to the states. And I think that's exactly where it belongs, in the states' hands. Now, I'm pro-life. I'm a child of a single mom who had a choice. She chose to have a child, and I'm grateful for that decision. So I'm biased towards pro-life. Also, from my Christian faith, I also believe that every life is a gift of God. And I would be for helping single mothers or women who are going through a pregnancy to find an alternative to such a permanent decision as an abortion. There are people waiting in line for adoption, and we could find ways for the government to help facilitate that.
All right, coming up, state lawmakers explore 2 ways to make earning a college degree faster and cheaper. Welcome back. Well, 3-year degrees might soon be coming to a university near you. It's something lawmakers are exploring. They also want to make permanent a way to transfer college credits to Ivy Tech to get an early degree. News 8's government reporter Garrett Bergquist explains.
This would make permanent an agreement Ivy Tech has with a number of 4-year institutions. Educators say this will help students who find themselves, for any reason, unable to complete a 4-year degree. Classes like this one at Ivy Tech aren't just an end in themselves or a springboard to IU or Purdue. They're also a backup.
They can get to an institution and decide it's not the right fit for them. They may have family situations that occur and they decide that they want to attend college closer to home. They may have academic trouble at a 4-year institution and transfer to Ivy Tech to rebuild their GPA or to go into a different program.
Ivy Tech has a reverse transfer agreement with several colleges and universities, including all of Indiana's public four-year institutions. Any student with at least 75 credit hours can transfer the credits to Ivy Tech and automatically get an associate's degree if they don't think they can complete a bachelor's. Michael Axe says more than 370 students did that 2 years ago. But the agreement is voluntary. A bill in the legislature would make the program permanent for the public universities. It passed the Senate unanimously on Tuesday.
The process is already happening right now. This just codifies it to make sure that the process continues and allows the commission to do additional communications that they might not be able to do otherwise.
The same bill orders Indiana's public four-year universities to investigate and offer three-year bachelor's degrees. The bill's author says it could save students money. Back at Ivy Tech, officials say they hope the bill gives those who need a degree another option.
Many jobs require a college credential of some kind. And so if a student is working toward their bachelor's degree but haven't earned it yet, they can say, hey, I've earned an associate degree, so I have completed a degree. I am qualified to apply for this particular position.
The bill still has to go through the House. Lawmakers begin the second half of the legislative session on Monday. In Noblesville, I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team on a potentially disastrous news conference for President Joe Biden. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Laura Beck and Republican Mario Mastrolamani. Good to see you both. Let's begin with that special counsel's report on President Joe Biden's handling of classified documents and his subsequent news conference. In that news conference, he specifically attacked the special counsel's questions about his recollection of his son's death. He also confused the presidents of Mexico and Egypt. Laura, we'll start with you here. Was that news conference a mistake?
No, I don't think the news conference was a mistake. I think you have to go out and you immediately have to address these issues. I mean, that's just something that you have to do. It is not the most fun thing in the world to do, but I can imagine, having worked for elected officials before, he was really, really angry. And so when you're in that kind of situation, you really have to temper down the anger to make sure that you're really focusing on those questions. Couple things about this report. I mean, it was a partisan hit job in the lowest form. President Biden didn't do anything wrong, and they found that he didn't do anything wrong. And so they had to pile on talking about his age and memory when John Harwood, a very distinguished reporter who covers the White House, did an interview with him 10 days before where he's completely coherent and cognizant and doing an excellent job. The challenge always is perception versus reality. And in this kind of a situation, I think you have to remember that we are in such a charged environment, and this is really his biggest weakness is his age. And so this special prosecutor just went and completely inappropriately attacked him for that when he didn't do anything wrong, and brought his dead son into it, which was really gross.
Mario, I'll let you respond to that. Go ahead. I saw you shaking your head in disagreement.
I think this is what we call Laura putting lipstick on a pig. Because and she did a really good job of trying to put lipstick on a pig, but this was a really damning report. It said that he willfully kept classified information, which clearly shows that he had knowledge that this information was classified, yet kept it. The justification for not bringing charges is that he's an elderly man with poor memory. That's the last thing we want as the leader of the free world, an elderly man with poor memory running this country. I think this was an extremely damning report. Any way you look at it, any way you try to justify it, I don't think there's anything that you can say in this report that makes Joe Biden feel good about it. And then if I would have had him come out and do a press conference, but I would have kept it so tight. I would have addressed just this issue, and I would have gotten him off of that podium ASAP. And for him then to confuse the president of Egypt versus the president of Mexico, to confuse that, a couple of my friends were joking, well, there's a reason why we don't have a southern border, because he thinks Mexico is in the Middle East, and so it's really damning. It doesn't look good. It almost solidifies some of the comments made in this report from his press conference. This is not good. Now, This happened in February, not closer to October or September. So I think he has a chance to recover from this. I think you've got to put him in some situations where he can try to minimize the damage, but I don't think he can attack Donald Trump on holding classified information when this report clearly shows he had been doing that for about 30 years.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, Laura, because, to Mario's point, it is early in the election cycle, so that could help politically. But are you concerned that this is going to help or hurt his efforts come the fall?
Well, Mario brings up a great point. It is February, and we have a long primary season to go. And he's also running against somebody who has 91 criminal charges against him. So that's also out there for the Republicans that they're dealing with. And I don't want to get into whataboutism because it's not something I'd like to do, but just a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. So if there's anyone who's really going to make hay out of this, it's going to be Nikki Haley, because this has been one of her main campaign talking points. I think at the end of the day, what it is going to come down to is, do you want a president who is inherently a good person, who's a decent man, who does the job and who is competent and has the experience to do it? Or do you want somebody who is a wannabe two-bit dictator who has 91 criminal charges pending against him and has made it very clear that he intends to take down some of our key pillars of democracy in the process? So that's going to be the choice that's going to be up to voters at the end. And I think that's really going to be what people have to make a decision on.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's move on, because we have a lot to talk about here. Mario, we'll move on to Donald Trump for a second, because the U.S. Supreme Court considered Trump's eligibility to remain on the ballot. Mario, based on the questions the justice has asked, how likely is it the high court will rule in Trump's favor?
They're going to. If you look at even the justices that have been appointed by Democrat presidents, it's going to be one where he's going to be on the ballot. If you looked at all the arguments from both sides and the questions that were being asked by not just the conservative justices, but also the liberal justices, I don't see any way that Donald Trump does not stay on the ballot and that this insurrection claims would work. Because, again, if they allow for Colorado to keep him off the ballot, and what they're wanting to do is have consistency, right, throughout the 50 states. And so I think that was one of the key arguments is, what Colorado decides is insurrection might be different than what Massachusetts or Indiana. And so they want to have consistency. And I think one of the main focuses from some of the questioning was they want the voters to decide. Voters should be the ones that decide. Right. If that claim is that Donald Trump created or caused some sort of insurrection, well, Joe Biden, if he's competent enough to make that argument, can make that argument, and then let voters decide, not let some, judges keep him off the ballot.
Laura, I'll let you answer that as well. But also, if the court does rule in Trump's favor, does that help or hurt Joe Biden going into November?
Well, I agree with Mario. I think they will rule in Trump's favor, and I do think what it does is it sets up a patchwork that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, especially when you look at it from a political standpoint. I agree with Mario. I think put him on the ballot, make it a level playing field, and then people can make that decision and people can vote and they can decide. I think every time we talk about the insurrection, every time you look at those videos, every time you relive what that day was, I think that brings up in people's minds just how awful that was and how awful the experience was and the stop the steal. And again, that's going to go back to the question of who do I want guiding the country for the next 4 years? Do I want the insurrectionist or, do I want the other guy?
All right, well, we'll see what happens there.
That's a point there.
I have two questions for both of you quickly. Victoria Spartz, is she or is she not going to be the candidate? Mario, go ahead.
Well, I believe that she's got as good a chance as anyone else. She's got a high name ID. She just released a poll that was done last week that showed that she had a serious name ID. I think that there's still a chance for Chuck Goodrich and some of the others to try and have a chance of winning. But the problem for Chuck is...
Laura, go ahead.
There's too many people in the race.
Yes or no? Victoria Spartz? Because I got another question for you guys. Go ahead.
I think she probably. It would not surprise me. I don't have a crystal ball, and I really don't have my finger on the pulse of that voting populace up there. But I will say, when you say you don't want to run for something, and then you say, "Oh, I changed my mind," voters don't like that. And
we could have done an entire segment on that, and we talked about it earlier in the week when it broke. But real quick, it's Super Bowl Sunday, guys. Who do you have, Mario?
The Chiefs. You know, they know how to win.
Yeah.
I'm not a Swiftie, but I do think that the Chiefs are going to win this.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to shake off what Mario just said, and I'm with my Swiftie joke here. I'm going for the Chiefs too. I'd love to see Mahomes get a win.
Yeah, I would too.
Even though I like
guys.
Brock Purdy.
Good to see you both. We'll be right back.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
That's it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Super Bowl Sunday.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.